After an insane start to this season, I got my week 4 power rankings. At 32, I got the Patriots. The Patriots, they did win against the Bengals, but the Bengals always start slow. They're still slow. I don't know if the Patriots, they were close to the Seahawks, but this is just not a team that has been able to pull away and finish out games. Their only game that they finished out against the Bengals, they had a lucky call where they called Mike Gesicki's touchdown catch not a catch. I still think it was a catch. But the Patriots should be 0-3 right now. They're playing really bad. Brissett looked really bad on Thursday against the Jets. Obviously, that is against the Jets defense, but the second they put in Drake May, he drove down the field. They weren't even trying to score because they just wasted the last 30 seconds when they're at like the 5 yard line. Obviously, I believe Drake May's better. I do like that they're sitting him though. It's good for his development, in my opinion. Ramondre Stevenson's been pretty good this season. Last game, obviously not, and their pass catchers really haven't had any pass catchers step up. At 31, I got the Jaguars. They just got destroyed yesterday by the Bills. It was like I don't even know, 47-10, something like that. Um, Trevor Lawrence just isn't that good of a quarterback. He's probably like lowerish, middle of the pack. Not exactly the guy you want to be paying 55 million per year. And their defense is even worse. Their defense is one of the worst defensive units in the league, in my opinion. Their secondary is terrible. They haven't been able to cover receivers to save their life. They just got carved up by Khalil Shakir, who I really like, but obviously, not the guy that most people would expect to like be tearing up your secondary. Week 1, I remember Darby allowed 180 yards. This secondary is just terrible, and their run defense isn't even that good either. I do like Travis Etienne, but he's a bit overrated at this point, and their pass catchers besides Brian Thomas haven't really done much. Christian Kirk had one good game this season this week actually. Most of it happened in garbage time though, so it's hard to know. At 30, I got the Dolphins. Now, this might be a bit of a shock to most people. They were definitely a lot higher last week. However, after I watched how Skylar Thompson played, I really hope he doesn't play for them anymore. He looked like he was blind. He would be staring at a pass rusher's face and try to throw it through them. It was so weird. He had that one where he rolled out to the right, got hit from behind after sitting there for ages. It was just like a hard thing to watch. Their defense is pretty decent, but I don't think it's enough for them to win games without Tua. I hope that they give Tyler Huntley a shot because I think he can be a much better quarterback and lead this team to a couple wins. Next up, I got the Raiders. Now, I had a lot higher expectations for them because I thought their defense would be a lot better with the addition of Christian Wilkins. However, they really haven't. Max Crosby's had a decent year, but overall the offense is just so bad, and it's not even just on Gardner Minshew, who you'd expect to be the source of a lot of problems. It's been on the run game. Zamir White's averaging like 3 yards per carry, and Madison hasn't been much better. This run game can't get anything going, and they're just turning to the pass game way too much. You do not want to be pass heavy when you have Gardner Minshew, and this is just not winning football. This does not translate to wins. And I think Antonio Pierce at this point is pretty overrated. He might be on the hot seat already. Next up at 28, I got the Carolina Panthers. Now, they did surprise me this week with Andy Dalton. He was cooking. I think that Bryce Young was still part of the problem, but not like as big as everybody's pretending. We all knew Andy Dalton was easily like top 3 backup in the NFL. He just whenever he's came in the past like 3 or 4 years, he's been elite. I don't know why he hasn't gotten a starting job similar to like the jobs that have been given to like Gardner Minshew and stuff. The Panthers defense actually came to play last week. That surprised me. However, it is against the Raiders. But Chuba Hubbard looked good. The pass catchers were getting open. The line was blocking. However, I don't know if they can sustain this over a long period of time. At 27, I got another team that we had at the bottom of the rankings, most people at least, last week, the Broncos. They got a win against the Buccaneers. I don't know if they can keep this up. If they can keep it up, they'll easily be like at least an average team for me. I liked what I saw from Bo Nix. He looked comfortable. I felt like a big part of his problems where he would just stare down his targets or he'd be too scared and he'd let it go late after he like stared them down. But he looked really comfortable this week, and the run game with Beatty, he looked really nice. He had 70 yards. Easily the best rushing performance out of any of the running backs this season. The play calling was a bit weird. The pitch at the goal line, similar to what the Bears did, but the Jaleel McLaughlin was able to make it work because of the terrible angle that the Buccaneers player took. But I don't know how good these pass catchers are. They're not very good at separating. They did this game, but I don't like the Buccaneers secondary very much, and I don't know if this can continue for the Broncos. At 26, I got the Titans. Now, they don't have a win yet. However, their defense has played amazing. They should be 2-1 right now, but Will Levis keeps selling. Obviously, they got destroyed by the Packers last week, but the Packers are one of the best teams in the NFL. Their run game hasn't been that good. I expect them to turn to Tyjae Spears as he has been the better back in my opinion. The pass catchers have been good. I really like what I've seen from Calvin Ridley and DeAndre Hopkins. And this defense, obviously, as I said before, is just amazing. Pass defense is solid, but the run defense is amazing. There's no way this team doesn't carve out like 6 or 7 wins this season. At 25, I have the Browns. Now, they looked pretty terrible this week against the Giants, obviously. Malik Neighbors just went off. He just was thrown to every time. They couldn't do anything about it, which one of the strong points on the Browns defense is their secondary. I really like their corners, but they're putting like Charvarius Ward and Greg Newsome on them. They need to put Martin Emerson more on them. I really like Martin Emerson. He's obviously, in my opinion, their best corner. Myles Garrett, I didn't really notice him much. I don't know if he was playing or not. I didn't watch the whole game, obviously, but I just didn't hear anything about how well he played. Now, the Browns, they do have Nick Chubb coming back soon, so that's good. Amari Cooper's been pretty good for them this season, but you just can't win games with Deshaun Watson. He's just horrible at this point, and you're paying him like 45 million guaranteed per year. I say, in my opinion, you just give Jameis Winston a shot at the starting job and see what he can do, because you shouldn't just be playing the worst guy just because you're paying him more. Either way, you're gonna lose games, but I think you could win a bit more with Jameis Winston. At 24, I got the Giants, who obviously just beat the Browns. Malik Neighbors has been amazing this season. Probably a top 10 receiver at this point already, which is just insane. His route running has been able to get open. He's been able to make people miss in the open field. And he's even made some spectacular catches in like the back of the end zone. That spinning catch against the Browns, that was really, really impressive for me. I believe last week he was targeted 60% of his routes, which is the most since like 2005 or something, which is crazy for a rookie. Daniel Jones, I think he's been serviceable, good enough to win games. Obviously, I think they'll move on from him after this season, but he's proven he can at least be a high quality backup in the league. And I really liked what I saw from Tyrone Tracy, who I think will end up leading the backfield second half of the season. Singletary's been decent, but just not as good as Tracy, in my opinion, who was in college, he played receiver, then transferred to running back, and so he's already new to the position, and he's already playing at a really high level. And I really like the Giants' defense. Obviously, I've said this a lot on this show. I've said that I really like Okereke. Sexy Dexy's the best DT in the league. Banks has looked pretty good this season. I don't think I've seen much from their edges. Obviously, you expect them to be a bit more noticeable. Brian Burns and Kayvon Thibodeau, that is. They haven't really made enough plays, in my opinion. However, I think this defense is still a really good unit. At 23, I got the Chicago Bears. Their defense, just like the Colts, is amazing, but they're struggling at quarterback. He did just throw for 350 yards, but a lot of that was in garbage time when they were trying to come back. It didn't really feel like they ever had a chance. I really liked what I saw from Roma Dunze. Now, for play calling, I do want to talk about what the crap. They pitched it. You could see pictures of it. I might throw one up here. Within like 2 seconds, there was 5 defensive linemen that beat the offensive linemen. I do think the offensive line and pass protection played better this week. Caleb just needs to make better decisions. His picks were really bad. I don't know what he was thinking. But I think he'd still be a good quarterback in the league. He just needs some time to develop. At 22, against what I wanted to do, I got the Colts. It's hard to put a team that just beat the Bears below the Bears, obviously, but Anthony Richardson is not good right now. I think he can be good, obviously, if he keeps developing. He's only had like 7 career starts, but it's obvious that he has accuracy concerns. His decision making is terrible. At the goal line, they were in field goal range, obviously, and he threw it right to the defender. I don't know what he was thinking. Uh, they need to give it to Jonathan Taylor more. Jonathan Taylor's been very good. He just hasn't got enough touches, in my opinion. And their defense is just terrible. I don't know how they beat the Bears. That's kind of sad. But the offensive line and run game is really the only bright spots for this team. At 21, I got the Bengals. I really like what I saw from Burrow. I thought he looked like a little bit back. Same with Chase. He looked really good. But that defense is horrible. You cannot allow 38 points to a rookie quarterback, especially like Jaden Daniels. He's more of a rusher than a passer. Obviously, they kind of shut down his rushing ability, and he made some insane plays. So obviously, it's not all in the Bengals defense, but they just need to step up. And Zach Moss really hasn't been that great. Chase Brown did make a couple of plays in this game, but I don't know how many games this Bengals team can win, as they're already 0-3, and it's just not looking good for them. At 20, I got the Cowboys. This is another team that's not looking good for them. Dak Prescott, he's been pretty okay this season. Obviously, a step back from last season where he was in MVP conversations. CeeDee Lamb's looked pretty good. The run game hasn't looked good. They need to give Rico Dowdle more of the work. I think he's a lot better than anybody else they have. And their defense, it's not looking good. Their talent, obviously on paper, is pretty good, but the loss of Dan Quinn seems to have hit them really hard. They have not played good these past few weeks. I'm really worried about them. And even though Bland is hurt, they still have capable corners that should be able to make the plays, but they just haven't. At 19, I got a really shocking one, the Commanders. Jane Daniels just had an insane game. I believe it was 21 of 23 for like 200 and something yards, multiple touchdowns. He's easily looked like the best quarterback in this rookie class. I like what I've seen from him as a passer too. He's able to run the system that he has, which is a lot of screens, mesh concepts, which obviously is pretty easy to run, but most rookies do struggle sometimes with that, and he's been very accurate. Also taking like three, I believe, deep shots downfield, completing two of them. That dot to McLaurin in the back of the end zone, that was really nice. I really liked that. He just made some insane plays. That was easily the best game of his career, and I really like the future for the Commanders. At 18, I got the Buccaneers, who just lost to the Broncos. Obviously, that takes a huge hit to how I think of the team because I don't like the Broncos. They need to give Bucky Irving more of their work. Rachaad White is horrible. Obviously, a good pass catcher, just not that good of a runner, especially between the tackles. Their line's been okay. They kind of they played really bad that game. They allowed, I believe, 7 sacks to Baker, which is just not good. Obviously, their quarterback stat, he needs to get rid of the ball a bit quicker. Mike Evans was shut down by Surtain in this game. I think he's taken a bit of a step back this season. Godwin, I think, in my opinion, is their number one. And their defense did not play good in this game either. And for the most part of the season, they've been pretty solid, so I expect them to bounce back. But this is just not a title contending team. At 17, I got the Rams, who just beat the 49ers. They're really weak right now. They've lost most of their best players, besides Stafford, obviously. It's really hard to win games when your wide receiver one's Demarcus Robinson, but the Rams found a way, so props to them. Kyren Williams had a bounce back game, and their defense has actually been pretty good this season. Just like last season, it just doesn't look that talented, but they're able to make it work. Sean McVay, obviously one of the best coaches in the league, he's actually been calling a lot of good plays without the receivers. A lot of their route concepts I really like. So we'll see if they can move up from this spot. It's just hard to put them higher than this with their current talent. At 16, I got the Cardinals. I wish I had them a lot higher just based on their offense, but Kyler Murray's a bit inconsistent. He's had an okay game, an elite game, then another okay game. He just needs to be more consistent, play really good every week rather than having a bunch of games where he just plays okay. It's not enough for his team to win. He has to play very good every week because that defense is just so bad that he has to make all the plays for them to win the game. So I don't know how well this team's going to be able to do if they can make the playoffs. I don't think they can really make a run based on how bad their defense is. At 15, I got the Saints. They've been pretty good this season. However, obviously recently against the Eagles, they did not look good. They scored very few points. Derek Carr had a really bad game. He was very inaccurate, making poor decisions. After I rewatched the game, I thought that there was a lot of plays left on the table. He had open players that he was just not able to hit. But if he can iron out those mistakes, this team could obviously move up a lot higher. I really like their defense. They just shut down the Eagles to very few points. Obviously, Goddard had like 170 yards, so that's not good. I need better play from their linebackers to move them up also. But this team has potential. At 14, they got the Falcons, who could be 3-0 at this point. They got narrowly defeated by the Steelers. They weren't able to score very many points. Obviously, they were a bit rusty. Kirk was rusty. He hadn't played for about a year based on his injury. And they've really been able to make plays recently. Against the Eagles, they obviously narrowly beat them. That was a really good game. They could have beat the Chiefs, but obviously they had that terrible missed pass interference call. And then they had another pitch on fourth down. I don't know why teams keep doing this. That just gets blown up in the backfield. This team, if they want to make better plays, they gotta call better plays. Now it does look rigged. It is rigged a little bit, but they could have still won that game anyway, and they just couldn't make it. They couldn't finish. At 13, they got the Seahawks. They are 3-0, but I think it's a very fake 3-0. They beat the Patriots narrowly. They narrowly defeated the Broncos. And now, obviously, they have a pretty good showing against the Dolphins, but it is with Skylar Thompson. This team hasn't really beaten anybody, but they've been pretty consistent. They haven't lost any of those easy games. DK Metcalf has made some plays, and JSN has looked like a pretty capable number two. And Zach Charbonnet, to his credit, has played very well. And the line has been holding up. Charles Cross looks like one of the better tackles in the league based on what we've seen recently. The defense has been pretty good. I just worry about how Geno will play when he plays like a really good defense. So I still have concerns about the Seahawks team. At 12, I got the Ravens. They also have had a pretty slow start to the season, but I believe in the talent on their team for them to bounce back. They're really feeling the loss of their coordinator, their defensive coordinator. They haven't made enough plays on defense, not getting enough sacks, takeaways, allowing too many points. But I don't think their offense has made enough plays either, except for obviously that last game against the Cowboys, which their defense has played terrible. Derrick Henry looked alive in that game, though. He looked very good, like prime Derrick Henry again, which he hasn't looked like the rest of the season. So that was a very encouraging game from them. At 11, I got the Chargers. I wish I could put them a lot higher. I really like them this season. Their defense has been amazing, but now they're down really just all of their best players. Any good player on their team you could think is hurt. Herbert, Joe Alt, Rashawn Slater, Joey Bosa. I think Derwin James just got suspended. Just all their best players are hurt, so it's hard to put them higher, even though the defense has really outperformed what we expected. And J.K. Dobbins has just been amazing. Justin Herbert's looked really good too when he's been healthy. Now, I don't know if he's going to start next week after he got pulled from that game with the ankle injury, so we'll see about that. At 10, I got the Jets. Aaron Rodgers looked really good in that game. I think it was a little bit overrated, but he was able to make plays, run the system. Breece Hall looks nice. Braylon Allen looks like a really nice compliment to him, and I really like what I've seen from their receivers, Garrett Wilson and Allen Lazard, just making some good plays. Defensively, I feel like they should have played better this season so far. Obviously, against the Patriots, they were able to play well, but they allowed a lot of points to the 49ers. Their defense did not look good in that game, and Sauce Gardner's been beat a lot in multiple different games, so that's another worry I have for this team. At 9, I got the 49ers, so I want to put them a little lower just because they're 1 and 2, but they just have maybe the most talented team in the league with a great coach. Brock Purdy has taken a bit of a step back this year, in my opinion, and Jordan Mason isn't able to do all the Christian McCaffrey stuff, which really hurts the team. Even though he's been very capable, especially as a pure runner, he's been very good. The defense has also played pretty good. Fred Warner has played elite this season again, and Nick Bosa looks pretty solid again, which last season I thought he took a bit of a step back. He looks like he's back to his old form. At 8, I got the Steelers. It's hard to put a team higher when they have Justin Fields and Russell Wilson at quarterback, even though they've been able to win games. Their defense, the best in the league. Their offensive line's been pretty underrated. At least I really like their center, Zach Frazier, the rookie. He's been able to get to the second level really well, open up plays for their running backs. I feel like they need to be playing Jalen Warren a bit more, just because I think Najee Harris is getting a bit too many of the carries. But I think Justin Fields has played good enough for them to win games, and we'll see if this can continue when they play harder opponents. At 7, I got the Eagles. I wanted to put them a lot lower. They haven't looked great when I've been watching them, but they did just beat the Saints. They beat the Packers. These are two very good teams. Even though they lost to the Falcons, who are also a good team, they almost beat them, but the obviously Saquon drop that really hurt them. But if this team can, if they can like Jalen Hurts can play better, they can get a bit more out of that defense. Obviously, they played good against the Saints, but they allowed the Packers to score a lot of points. The Falcons scored quite a few points and were able to just drive through at the end of that game. Then I think they can be a Super Bowl contender. At 5, I got the Green Bay Packers. Now, I know what you're saying. That's a little bit biased. It's not. Most people have us even higher than this. Jordan Love's coming back. They just won 2 games with their backup quarterback. Their defense has 7 interceptions. That's the same amount they had all of last season, and they already got it in 3 games. They're forcing the most takeaways in the NFL. Their defense, we just had 8 sacks in that game against the Titans. Obviously, their offensive line is a bit of a joke, but still 8 sacks in a game is just insane. The run game's been pretty inconsistent, but when Jacobs is on, he's one of the best backs in the league, and Emmanuel Wilson is clearly a very good complement to him. And I think with the arrival of Love coming back, this team can easily compete for a Super Bowl. At 4, I got the Texans. Stroud did not look great in that game against Brian Flores' defense. Obviously, I predicted it if you guys watched my hot takes video. I said he'd throw 2 or more picks just because he's never played against that defense. The Kyle Shanahan system, it just doesn't work well against Brian Flores' defense for whatever reason. So that was pretty predictable, but their defense has played pretty well. Joe Mixon has had a couple of good games, and Nico Collins looks like one of the best receivers in the NFL. At 3, I got the Vikings. I did not think I'd be saying this. Sam Darnold just proved everybody wrong. He's played so good this season. Justin Jefferson, one of the best receivers in the league. Aaron Jones, very capable, very good running back. He's been very good for them this season. And that defense has been very, very good, despite their corners being a bit lackluster, especially with the loss of Mekhi Blackman in the preseason or training camp for the whole season. He was gonna slated to be their second best corner, so they've actually played pretty good despite that. At 2, I got the Bills, who just smacked the Jaguars. Their offense looks amazing. Obviously, it looks like they might have found their future, maybe one, maybe number 2 receiver in Khalil Shakir. Keon Coleman looks like a good complement to him, and Kincaid, obviously, great tight end. Josh Allen's looking like one of the better quarterbacks in the league. He's able to play pretty turnover-free this season. And that defense has stepped up really good, even though they lost Taron Johnson in their play. Christian Benford's played well. Von Miller stepped up again. Greg Rousseau's looked good. Ed Oliver's looked good. The linebackers have stepped up with Dorian Williams. He's looked good. So, with the loss of Tyrell Dodson, they're still making plays. And at number 1 is the Kansas City Chiefs. And I'm going to have them up here until they start looking really bad because I know they're just saving it for the playoffs, just like last season. And they're going to fool everybody and play good again in the playoffs, sadly. But they really should have lost that Falcons game. They should have lost that Bengals game. It was pretty close. They could have lost that one. So they played in a lot of close games. And that offensive line, that left tackle, not looking great. Same with right tackle, also not looking great. That's probably their biggest weakness. And the run game with Pacheco obviously being hurt, not great. But that defense has played really well. And even though Mahomes has looked horrible this season, I'm pretty sure he'll end up stepping up in the playoffs and they'll end up competing for a Super Bowl again. Well, thank you guys for watching my Power Rankings video. Make sure to check out my other videos on the channel and subscribe and like this video.